Hello and welcome to today's video. Now we'll be getting into Arch Linux. Excuse me. And as some of you may understand or know, they say that Arch, you need to compile everything yourself. You need to do all this, do all that. And it's honestly not that hard. I'll show you guys. It's not as difficult as you may think. It's a little different than most Linux installs, but once I show you guys, I think you'll be quite pleased to see that it is not, you don't need the entire knowledge essentially of C and C++ just to install Arch. You may need the command line interface to, hook up to Wi-Fi, but that's an argument for another day. So I'll show you guys here how to install Arch Linux. We'll just be installing it to a virtual machine as we kind of already have it on our desktop here. So just first, we'll go ahead, boot it up, and nope, you will restart. Just for reference here, we're actually using the Netboot ISO, which I believe is this one. Oh, you're not selected. I don't know why. So Netboot actually is it's a tiny little image, as you can see here. It's only about 3 megabytes, and all it does is it requests media from an external server, the Netboot server, online, and then from there you can actually boot into many popular Linux distributions. I love it because it's just a small fingerprint on my systems, and then I can just boot into Linux on whatever servers, whatever systems I'm installing, or if I wanted to, I can do a TFTP boot from the network and just force it that way. So we'll go ahead, reset this real quick. Oh, come on. You were just working. Yeah. Okay, let's try this again. Apparently I'm having problems. Okay. And boot options. Oh, why? This was literally just working 5 seconds ago. Okay, let's start this again. There we go. Okay. So give it a minute to set up. We'll grab an IP address. Okay. And we'll go Linux network installs and Arch Linux. Latest release. And we'll give it a minute here just to download and get everything set up. Okay, so Arch Linux is online, and as you can see here, we're dropped into the basic install shell. From here, it works just like any other Linux system. Uname dash A, I think. Yep. So just like that, it's your regular Linux install, except it's waiting for us to get everything set up. So just to confirm, we've got an IP address, which means we have internet access, and we can confirm that with this. So now we'll get set up and install Arch to our system. We can do this first by doing arch install, all one word, and enter. Give it a minute here. Okay, so first up, we can change the language. We'll keep it in English since that is the only language we speak. I tried Russian. I can't speak it very well. Doesn't stick in my head, so we won't use that. For mirrors, you want to select your proper mirror region, which may be United States, it may be London, or not London. London is a country. It may be the UK. Wherever you may stand, you'll want to select your proper mirror region here. It'll check everything real quick. Okay, mirror region has been set up, and I did forget to let you guys know. We'll go into here. No, locales we don't need. If we're going to partitioning, we'll do best effort partition layout. When you are in a selection menu like this, or like when we're back in the mirror regions, you'll use your up and down keys to navigate, and then your spacebar to select and deselect items. So the loopback device is something that's done with all installs. We won't need to worry about that. Ignore it. We'll want to use the VirtIO block device or your first available drive on your system. We'll hit space to select that and then enter. And you can choose the best file system for your use here. BTRFS, also known as ButterFS, you can do snapshotting. So, for example, if you install Arch Linux, maybe you make a configuration change, screw up your system, you can use snapshotting to make a snapshot before and after, rewind, and then from there recover your system essentially without you doing much. For this example, we'll just stick to ext4. That's easy, simple. We don't need to do any of the snapshotting or deal with it. And then logical volume management. If you want to do essentially a software RAID system, you can do that all here. And then if we go back, if you would like to do disk encryption with LUX2, you can do that here. You can either do LUX on the logical volume management system, or if you want to do the LVM and then LUX from there. Essentially, it's changes based on how you want to layer your system. Do you want to decrypt it and then have access to your entire volume group, or do you want to have your volume group and then the encryption within that virtual system, that virtual disk, I should say. So for this one, we won't do any encryption since we don't really need it. Your bootloader, this will vary if you're booting from legacy or if you're booting for UEFI. Since we are booting from legacy, we'll use grub. If you're booting from UEFI, the default setting, I believe, is systemd boot. So we'll just go ahead and hit yes on grub. And for swap, this will be typically where your hibernation is stored, as well as if you are out of memory, your RAM. All of your swap space will start to be used for any memory essentially that's currently not in use. It's a way to recover the system if you're running out of memory. I personally don't care for swap since I usually don't need to worry about that. So this extent, we're just going to hit no on this. Your host name, essentially how it shows on the network. We'll keep this to archlinux-vm. Your root password, if you'd like to define a root password itself, or if you want to have no root password at all, essentially disabling the account, you can leave this blank. So we'll just hit enter. And for the user account, you'll want to add a user here since this is how you'll actually log into the system. So for this username, we'll just set Jake, and then password. Yep, it is very weak. And if you want this user to be able to access super user settings, if they want to do sudo, whatever it may be, you can hit yes. Otherwise, if you want them to be essentially standard user equivalent, you'll hit no. So for this, we'll hit yes. And then once we've added all of our users, confirm and exit. Our profile will be what this system is meant for. If this is meant to be some sort of server, you can select that here. For Xorg, you can select that. I believe that's the original X11 system since everything's now moved to Wayland. If you'd like a minimal setup, not including many of the special features and stuff that usually comes with it, you can select it here. But for now, we'll go ahead and hit desktop, which includes many of these packages, including OpenSSH, as you can see here. So we can remote into systems as well as have our system remote into when maybe we're away. So we'll hit desktop. And because I like my KDE Plasma, we'll hit space and enter. We'll do a graphics driver that's all open source. Since we're not passing through any NVIDIA or AMD GPUs, we won't really need anything else. And then the greeter, I like to leave it STDM. I find it to be the best. And we'll hit back. For audio, I prefer Pipewire. Pulse audio is nice. However, I've had some issues in the past when my system stays on for extended periods of time. I don't really like to shut down my system, so when I leave my desk, my computer is still running, which usually means that I have an uptime of several days. And that's usually where Pulse audio will have all sorts of weird issues, and then my audio stops working, whatever else. So I prefer Pipewire. Simple, easy to use, no problems. Kernels, if you want to harden your system, or if you want a long-term support kernel, you can add that here. The Zen kernel is also for other additional features. This is entirely up to you. The Linux kernel by default that you select, perfectly fine as well. But like I said, if you want a hardened system, if you want to lock it down, you can use a hardened kernel here, which will remove certain attributes that typically aren't used, disable them, essentially providing you a more secure environment. For additional packages, I personally prefer using Git and Nano. Add those here. And what this is going to do is this is going to install these packages on top of your Arch Linux system. So Git For example, if you know GitHub, GitLab, you'll need to use Git in order to clone any repositories or folders to your desktop. Without it, you won't really be able to do much. You could use like curl or wget, which I believe is installed with the desktop type, profile type. Um, but it's just much easier to use Git because you can clone things and then manage it all from there. And then Nano, because I prefer to use Nano over Vim. Fight me. Let that verify. And then network configuration. We'll just use Network Manager. Keep it simple. The time zone. You can define a certain type of time zone here. For now, we'll just keep this at UTC. And then automatic time sync. We'll leave on true for here. Optional repositories. I prefer using multi-lib as there's a little bit more support for your system here. So we'll just hit space, enter, save the configuration in case there is any issues. We'll just save that to the root folder and install. And once everything, there we go. We'll hit enter on that. Give it a second here. It's going to format the system and install Arch. Okay, now that our install is complete, we're asked if we'd like to chroot into the newly created installation. Now, for this, we will say no, since we don't really have any other updates per se that chroot will be able to benefit from. So we'll just go ahead, hit no from this, and hit reboot. And from there, nope, we have to, actually, I'll have to have 3. Nope, go away. There we go, okay. Arch Linux. And here we are. So we'll go ahead and log in. And there's one last update we want to make, and that is installing Paru, which is going to be our AUR package manager. There is Pacman, which is obviously with all Arch base systems, but Paru will help you a little further. Oh, I also just realized I forgot to install a browser. Let's open up a terminal. So we'll do sudo su yada yada pacman-s to install, and then I think it's florp.bin. Oh, it may not be available. Okay, we'll just do Firefox then. Give that 1 minute to install. Okay, and now there's Firefox. X out of here. And AUR helper right here. And all you're literally going to do is these 4 commands. So we'll do this one. Exit out. Okay. And then this one right here. cd paru and make pkg.si. Okay, had to make some off-screen changes real quick. Didn't have enough memory to compile Paru, which I didn't realize would cause a signal 9. So if you are getting a sig kill or sig 9, or your terminal just all of a sudden closes, fair assumption that you don't have enough memory to build a Rust package, which I didn't realize was possible. But whatever, we got it figured out. So now we can actually dive into what I did want to do, and that is installing something from the AUR. So we'll go ahead and dock these to the side here. AUR Florp. Now, Florp is a browser I personally prefer. Firefox has gone in the shitter, and Brave is good. I just don't really like the whole Chromium stuff. Plus, you can install ad nauseum, as I've shown in previous videos, relatively easy with Firefox. You can just go to the Firefox store, and there it is. So what we're going to do now is it's as simple, just like Pacman, PARU space -s with your current user, and then just florp bin. And as you can see, it pulls it up right there. We'll hit Y. It'll download everything we need, accept those changes, insert our password. And just like that, we are ready to go. So now we can launch into Florp, and our new Arch install is ready to go. Now we have the AUR helper. So anything from the AUR, it's as simple as Paru space -s, and then the binary name, which we used Florp-bin because this is pre-compiled. Otherwise, we'd have to recompile the browser on our own if we did this one. So now that that is set up, we can install our extensions. We can begin setting up our Arch desktop and move on from there. So once again, if you do have any questions, concerns, please leave them in the comments. Otherwise, have yourself a wonderful day and good luck with your Arch install.